Thanks, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. You loved our next guest as good guy Commissioner Gordon on Fox's Gotham, and now you can see Ben McKenzie play the bad guy in the new thriller Line of Duty. Let's take a look.
All units, suspect heading south. Suspect is considered armed and extremely dangerous. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage.
Place your fingers behind your head, drop to your knees!
What the hell's going on?
Claudia was kidnapped 3 days ago. You shot the only lead that we had.
Can you tell me about Cheap's daughter?
What are you, a reporter? Someone took Brooke's little girl. She's in a box somewhere, and she's gonna drown. I can't let that happen. Do you understand?
The person dies and nobody cares.
You're gonna know what it feels like.
I'm gonna kill you.
It's not about Claudia. This is her son.
How are your knees?
Have a real lead. It's a trap.
Where is she? Answer me!
We're running out of time.
Everybody, please welcome Ben McKenzie. Let's hear it.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Good to see you.
Great to see you as always.
You are a bad guy.
Oh, the character. That I
Yes,
play.
yes,
Not me.
yeah. Ben, thanks so much for being here. We want to
God.
talk. We need to talk to you.
This has gone horribly awry from jump.
This is an intervention with all your friends.
I've been exposed.
You are a bad guy.
I'm a bad guy. Can you be more specific?
Yeah, in this film.
No.
Was
I
that
came up
something
with
that you finished Gotham and you were like, look, I've been the good guy or a kind of a good guy for a while now. I'd like
Right.
to play.
Yeah,
something
yeah.
else."
We actually shot this last year in the spring, so there was still one more season of Gotham to go, but this fit in the off time. And Steve Mueller, who directed the movie, I'm a fan of his. He does some really fun action stuff, and I love Aaron. Aaron's awesome. Didn't know him at the time, but I was a big fan of his work. And they said, do you want to come down to Birmingham, which is where we shot the movie, which was really great, and be a bad guy, and shoot some guns and race some cars. And I said, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun.
A lot of gun shooting.
There's a lot of guns in this
Yeah.
movie. Yeah.
You have a insane automatic weapon that is very heat-like. And,
Yeah.
like just sort of out in the street. Reminds me of that.
That's
that sequence.
definitely the aesthetic we were going for. The city of Birmingham was really fantastic. They let us, for example, as you probably saw in the trailer, fly a helicopter in downtown Birmingham and shut down 8 lanes of traffic, or a 2-lane intersection 4 ways, like for days at a time.
Not do that in LA.
You cannot do that in LA. No, they will. That is only Michael Mann can do that in LA, and he might not even be able to get away with it these days.
I believe even Tarantino, for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they had to sort of sneak a lot of those shots when they got on the freeway.
That makes sense. Yeah, right. So we had all the sort of the tools that we needed, and it was fun. The basic conceit of the movie is Aaron's a disgraced cop, and he sort of stumbles into a crime that he helps resolve, seemingly, but that just sort of unfurls a sort of a larger, deeper thing that's going on, and there's a ticking clock. He has to save this girl who is whose life is being threatened, and so it has a nice sort of propulsive element to it, and it was really fun to be the bad guy.
Yeah, you are very much the bad guy in this, too. Like, he is a sadist, and he is trying to hurt people.
Yeah, and he's also just, it's fun to just... I'm a child of the 80s, and so, I like the sort of... If you're gonna have fun and do a fun movie, which this is supposed to be, you should just go for it and enjoy yourself.
Right. I imagine, oftentimes when I talk to people who play bad guys, they're like, "Oh, I don't want to judge them, and I don't want to I want to put myself in their shoes." And I'm wondering if with this you're like, "No, no, no, I'm the bad guy. I'm just having fun."
Well, I think it's both. I mean, Ben wants to have fun, but what's fun about it is getting into that mindset where I'm going to blow some stuff up. I'm going to punch that guy in the face. Like I have 0 Fs to give, as the kids would say. Like you just kind of throwing caution to the wind and having some fun. I don't get to do that in my normal life because I'm married. I have 2 kids.
You're a dad.
I don't get to punch people, right? It'd be bad if I started punching people. I feel like there's only so many people that are. Yeah, I'm a dad. I'm a husband. I'm not a bad guy, despite what you say. I am a good guy.
Most of what being a dad and a husband requires is hopefully never punching, and mostly just kind of like, "Hey, please don't do that. Yes, I'll get to that. Please don't do that. Yes, I'll get to that."
Exactly. If you were to film that, not as interesting, right? Our documentary obsessions aside, narrative feature wise, you want to this is a fun movie that looks like it was even more expensive than it was. They really put all the value on screen, and Aaron was awesome. I mean,
yeah, you and Aaron have a few fight scenes. You're
Yeah.
fighting a lot in the movie. How did you guys stage those, and what was it like working with him doing that stuff?
well, he's very serious about it. He's a big guy. We did a bunch of fight rehearsals where we basically. It was very important for Aaron that it felt authentic, so there was a lot of grappling, a fair amount of striking, but a lot of grappling, and it was pretty intense.
That's true. With your fight scenes, there is striking, but it's not a lot of suddenly these people know kung fu.
Correct. There's no sudden 360-degree kick kind of situation. I'm ex-military. He's obviously law enforcement. The fighting that we were doing should be fighting that a normal cop, ex-military guy, not someone with martial arts training or whatever would be able to do. A lot of body weight stuff and a lot of grappling and stuff.
Throwing yourselves at each other.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, we do this great. There's a great sequence where we end up hurtling ourselves through this chamber, elevator shaft, I guess is what it probably was, that has water beneath it, and we're literally sort of struggling mid fall, just go completely down, and then there's a sequence on a helicopter, and it's good. They put the money on the screen. It's good.
How was the sequence with the helicopter filmed? I mean, I imagine to me it's like there's green screen mixed with practical mixed with.
We had an incredible helicopter pilot. I'm sorry, because we shot it a year and a half ago, I can't remember his name, but he was really phenomenal. And so a lot of it was practical. They actually had a helicopter basically takes off a roof with Aaron and Courtney Eaton in it, and then I'm still there, just put it that way. And so there's a whole huge fight sequence on the helicopter. And we... my stunt double, Turner, was up hundreds of feet in the air on a harness with Aaron's stunt double. But Aaron and I also did real practical fighting on a helicopter that was basically on a rig about 20 or 30 feet above the ground with a lot of padding below it.
Is your stunt double? I mean, it looks real, but when your character falls from the window or the door of the helicopter and catches on to the guardrail, the rail underneath.
Mm-hmm.
Is that your stunt guy? Is that a moment where he's way up there and I mean he's harnessed in and he's dropping and grabbing?
Yeah, I mean they're
It's a terrifying stunt.
Yeah, no, he has a harness, of course, and that's the thing that's keeping him safe. But
is this your regular stunt guy? Like
it
is
is.
he your stunt guy from Gotham?
Turner is my guy from Gotham. He's incredible. Turner Smith. Hire him. If anybody who looks like me should be doubled by him. He was my double for 5 years on Gotham, and I said, I'm going down to Birmingham to do this film. Can we? Actually, Steve, the director, was great. He asked me if I have a stunt double, which is a good, you're dealing with like a good action director when they're asking their actor, they're trusting their actors who we didn't know. He'd said, "Hey, I like his work. I want him to be in the movie," but we'd never met before. And he's like, "Do you have a stunt guy?" And like, let's figure that out, because that's very important. It's not just the look of the thing; it's also that I can work with Turner, because I've worked with him before. You know, in the rehearsal process with Aaron, or even Aaron's double, because often we were already shooting. Aaron couldn't do both at the same time. And we had plenty of rehearsals, but like often he needed to shoot, so I needed to work with his double, and that's work. You need to be able to have a shorthand. You need to be able to trust people. You need to be able to work, because you don't have that much time.
Well, Turner knows what you can do.
Correct.
Right? Like Turner, essentially, has trained you on a lot of the ways and a lot of the things that I'm sure you can do, and he has a fairly. Like, the director can go to Turner and be like, or he can go to Turner and be like, did you know if Ben knows how to do this while you're doing something else?
Yeah,
you know?
that's right. And we are plugging Turner. Turner, you owe me, dude. You're going to have to give me
Well, now I'm kind of
dinner
fascinated
or
by the
something.
life of the stuntman who worked so closely with someone for a number of years, based off of probably Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Like, is
Right, totally.
Is Turner like your driver now?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
is he
exactly.
Waiting for the next job.
I always found that relationship really fascinating, and I never really. I mean, that's not true. I guess I feel like I'm a certain sort of level of established actor if there's a guy that I've been working with. You know, that's such an interesting thing to.
And whose work in some ways depends on your work.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
he'll
he
get
has
other jobs and stuff, but like, you know,
our lives are intertwined in a way that I think is cool. It is very interesting, and he's a great guy. And it's also nice to sort of have someone who's, you know, he's basically doing the same thing you're doing, except he's literally doing it, but he's also pursuing a slightly different career, and so he's dealing with, you know, all of the same things you're dealing with from a lifestyle standpoint. You know, relationships and you know, potentially kids, all that stuff.
Do you, when you sign up for something like Gotham, and do you interview stunt doubles? Is it, or are they just like, this is Turner, this is your stunt double?
No. Norm Douglas, our stunt coordinator, who's an incredible stunt coordinator, found Turner. I forget exactly how. I actually think they may not have worked together before. I think it may have been based on, because again, we were shooting a pilot first, so you don't know that it's necessarily going to become, you know, a series that lasts for a long time. So he found Turner because Turner looks a lot like me. I mean, very much like me. So it may have just started then, but he's, you know, such a professional, such a great, hardworking guy. I've never seen him complain about anything, even when he jumped through a plate glass window once for me. Well, fake glass, but he cut his entire face up. He has this big scar on his face, just a fluke accident that happened. But that's, you know,
The job.
well, and then I mean that's for better or worse. That's the job, right? I mean, it's like you do incredible stunts, but it's, you know, it's not for free. Yeah.
You know, with Gotham having wrapped up, it was 5 seasons, and in the last few seasons, you were directing episodes, you were writing episodes, you were starring in it. You're not credited as a producer, but I'd imagine you were in some ways. If you're writing and directing episodes, you're in some ways, and you're the star of the show. You had a heavy hand, or at least a say as to.
Yes.
Where it went.
I won't comment further on that, but yes, yes.
Was not meant to bring up anything.
No, it's fine. It's fine. In the future.
How are you doing now with that? Because that's a ton of work.
Terribly.
Yeah. Are you bored?
No, I'm great. No, it was nice to take some time off. I'm just sort of getting my head. You know, the show ended this year, and like you said, it was a lot of work. So I want to take a breath and spend some time with my kids, and my wife is like off doing all these great projects, and
She was like, it's my time now.
yeah, and like she deserved that. I mean, more than deserved that, because Gotham was a lot about, you know, Jim Gordon's plotline and Bruce Wayne, and you know, she was I don't mean this in any disrespect for the show, but a lot of actors were underutilized to a certain degree because the canvas was so broad. You know, we had a lot of stuff to play with, and we wanted to color all of the different wonderful colors, but you know, there can only be one A and B storyline, or two, I guess I should say, one version of each. And so she's been working a lot, and I've been kind of when I do television again, which I would like to do, I'd like to be more in the capacity you mentioned. I'd like to help bring it to be,
Right.
You know, as a producer and
Develop something.
yeah, not necessarily as a writer per se, because I'm not That's not really certainly not my strength. It's something I'm interested in.
You've done it. You've written episodes.
Yeah, but there's a massive difference between writing an episode or two and running a show.
Yeah.
You know, being the creative voice from the script standpoint, which is the most important place, I would imagine. So I'm in conversations with people, and I think hopefully those will come to be. I can't announce anything yet because it isn't done, but when it's done, it'll be fun.
What was it like for you writing episodes of Gotham? As you said, you're not the showrunner. There are other showrunners. There's also, I'm sure, people who are ahead of you that are below the showrunner in the writer's room as well. But you are essentially, when you are writing a script for a TV show that is already airing, basically, if it's not the pilot, you are in service of that showrunner and of the beats that have been laid out in the writer's room prior to you even sitting down to write the script.
Correct. And I was fortunate enough to, for at least 2 of the 3 episodes. Is that right? Did I write? I can't remember whether I wrote 2 or 3 episodes. Anyway, for most of the episodes.
You directed 3.
I directed 3, and I think I ended up. That's right. I wrote 2. For the first one, I was able to be in the room and break out the beats with the room, so it wasn't as though the beats were foreign to me. We worked on them collaboratively. For the last one, because we were already in production and because we sort of at the last minute got ordered a few extra episodes, the room had already broken it down, like you said. So it just depends. I mean, but your larger point is right. You are in service to the show, and that's where your loyalty should. I mean, that's your job. You're not there to like, I'm going to write the an episode that's entirely entertaining to just me,
Right.
Leaving aside all of the plot points that we have to hit in order to service the greater narrative. That's
Yeah, I got your beat sheet. Wasn't really into it.
Exactly. Wow, it's a whole episode where Jim, I don't know, like, what does he
Was
get?
on vacation.
Yes, exactly. Wait, this is just you lying on a beach, basically.
Yeah, so cool. It's Jim's fantasy.
Exactly right. By the way, if I got to I would be like, choose an episode where I wasn't in the episode. I mean, for like a scene or two, but like I would love just to have some time off. So it's an episode about the penguin.
It's just like redacted where Jim is supposed to appear in the script.
Yeah. That's right. We can't tell you. It's going to be a black screen. Super entertaining. You're in service to the show. That's a great skill to learn, and I certainly look forward to learning more about it. But at the end of the day, television is driven by the creators of television, the showrunners of television. It's no secret, everybody knows that. It's like actors, and I think actors, Reese Witherspoon has been an incredible example of people who put shows together who are not technically writing the shows, technically or otherwise. They're not. She's not sitting there writing, but as a producer and star, I mean, what a force, and that's a great example of using a whole other array of skills that are related to storytelling. They are forms of storytelling, but they aren't actually, writing things down.
Well, that's knowing how a set works, knowing how the writer's room works, knowing how dealing with studio executives works. It's really knowing how to do all of those things so that writer that you have chosen or decided to work with can do their job.
And casting, too, right? She has relationships with all of these people, and if she doesn't have relationships with, insert famous actor here, she can and
She
will.
can very easily make one.
And part of that is because, and I've literally never met Reese Witherspoon in my wife. I love that I'm sitting there talking about Reese Witherspoon, but like, she's hardworking and charming, and to star her, she can like figure it out. And that's why you get these great casts together. So I think it's fun. It's fun to like utilize all those skill sets.
Is there a part of you that, these shows or these projects that you're developing for the future, you don't want to like you don't want to write the pilot. You want to find the pilot that's written and the creator that you want to work with, partner with, basically. Would you direct the pilot? Because even pilot directing is different than directing an episode within a show.
I try to. I probably depending on it, probably try to. That is a thing that you have to earn, as you should. And much as there's a difference between writing an individual episode of a show that's already ongoing versus creating a show on your own, there's a massive difference. Maybe not as massive, but a huge difference depending on the scope of the world you're portraying in directing a single episode of television versus the pilot of a television show. Because the pilot of a television show, you can imagine what for example, to pick a huge one, directing the pilot of Game of Thrones might have been.
Gotham.
Or Gotham, exactly. Danny Cannon, Gotham. You're building an entire world. That is a huge undertaking. I won't say never, but certainly not at this point in my career would I even fathom doing that. I don't even know how to do that. I don't. I'd be straight up. If it were a character-driven drama that was much more sort of focused, might be present day, might be, all these, I feel much more comfortable in that world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
They're also never going to offer me the pilot of Game of Thrones, so it's not like don't have to think about this intellectually.
Right. I mean, I think the pilot for Game of Thrones was like a sort of veteran HBO director that they were like, yes, you can do this.
Correct. And I hate that I'm blanking on who directed it. I think there were 2 versions, right? It wasn't there. Anyway, I don't know.
Oh, maybe. I don't think it was Alan Taylor.
Might have been.
Might
I
have
don't
been.
know.
Yeah, I don't know. Another project that you have right now, The Report, directed by Scott Z. Burns, based off of the torture report. Adam Driver is in it. Annette Bening, John Hamm, I believe. Lots of other people are in it as well.
Yeah, I know.
Humongous cast.
Yeah, a great
Tim
cast.
Blake Nelson is in it.
Tim Blake Nelson is in it.
Maura
John,
Tierney.
did you mention John Hamm?
Yeah.
Did you already say John Hamm? Yeah. The cast is, and I'm in it too.
And you're in it as well. What do you?
That's how big the cast is. I'm in it. I'm in it. I play one of the. So the movie The Report is about the CIA torture report, and I play one of the torturers.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What made you?
Spoiler alert.
How did you get involved with the movie, and what made you want to be involved with the movie?
I'm a political junkie. I love what Scott does. Scott is an incredible screenwriter. He's written a lot of movies.
Scott wrote Contagion, right?
Yep, he works a lot with. Oh my God, Steven Soderbergh.
Steven Soderbergh. My money, Contagion is one of Soderbergh's top 5. I love that movie.
That's a very good movie, and he's written a lot with him, and he's prolific. And so I liked just knowing that Scott was doing this story, and the story for people who don't know it is a really intense story, all true, about how the powers that be tried to bury the intelligence report of what we actually did to prisoners of ours, in direct violation of international law, that included torturing people. And we should talk about these things as Americans, because who are we? What do we represent? What are our values? The time that you get tested the most is when one value is in opposition to another value, and is the value, domination, some sort of win at all costs kind of a thing, with the sort of posit that if you beat someone enough, they'll give you the right information, which, spoiler alert, does not work. Has been proven to not work. There are studies. We have plenty of data on this. Or are we a country that also has values and has, believes in basic human rights and believes that you can't actually torture, for example, torture somebody to death in service of some information which will inevitably be tainted by the torturing process? So it's a deep movie, but it's a really, really good movie.
But what's so interesting about that is that some values don't even have to come into it if we already know that it doesn't work.
Well, I feel like we have to address that issue as well, because
values
that
are
is
important.
Because they are going to argue it doesn't matter. We have to get it, because they'll say, well, then all these people can die of this thing, and that's the way you counteract the values argument. Because clearly, it's against our values to torture people, right? No one's going to say yeah, we should just torture just for fun. We should torture people. No, the value is, well, we can get this information. It doesn't.
Fascinating to me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it.
What's so fascinating to me is that in the wake of 9/11, it wasn't necessarily a secret that we were doing these things at black sites.
Right.
But as a country, a large swath of the country was okay with it, because we were so scared after 9/11. We were being pumped with fear by both the administration and the media. And when we say media, for whatever reason, people only think of it as Fox News was doing it at the time.
No.
No. They were all pumping fear into our hearts.
Well, there's an emotional response to what happened. I was here in New York. I was living in New York in 9/11. I remember going to the local cafe. I didn't have I just moved to New York and moved in August of 2001, and we didn't have a TV set up in our apartment, so I didn't actually know what was going on. And I figured it out because I got up in the morning and I walked to the local coffee shop that I would get my coffee, and there was this large screen TV on, and there was a press conference of. It's one of the first press conferences, and it was a bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats, and just sort of like a gut response to what happened. I forget who was talking. And there was some representative, I don't even remember which, who was very clearly angry and was using very sort of, was upset and was talking about striking back and like making sure these people paid for it and all this stuff. And I was there with him. I was 100%. These people hit us, we're going to hit them back. And we're going to hit them back 10 times harder. And that's okay to have that feeling. That is not a wrong feeling to have. But then you have to, understand, well, what does that mean? Well, who actually attacked us? How are we going to bring them to justice? How are we going to, we're talking about law and order ultimately, right? These folks are not American citizens living in our system, but we have to, we are trying to create a sense of law and order throughout the world so that we will not be, attacked in this way and punish those that would come after us. When that gets down into guys in a prison in Afghanistan or wherever, who may have information, but clearly do not have the information that we're trying to get from them because we've done everything except torture them in ways that are illegal. When we're willing to just do that in the sort of the vague hope that they'll turn over something, contrary to sort of all the studies that have come out, I don't know what we're doing. I think we're reacting on an emotional level rather than an intellectual level and trying to understand how to actually get what we want.
And so often those people who were in those black sites were like the coworker of the cousin of the something and had almost like nothing to do with these terror networks or these cells. Or often, I mean, there was a New Yorker article not that long ago about a man who was kept in Guantanamo for over a decade, and it turned out that he, at a certain point, was not necessarily blackmailed, but like if he didn't give money, he felt like his family would have gotten hurt. So it was on record that he gave money to a terrorist network. And then he had a friend who was a cousin of somebody else, and he was kept for over a decade in Guantanamo, and he was tortured. And it's just awful that we do something like that.
Well, and you also can understand how it has actually, how the other way has actually helped us. I mean, I have not read about this closely, but my understanding is al-Baghdadi was captured or killed in part because there was a source inside of his organization. That is actual, high-level intelligence work that is incredibly delicate, incredibly difficult, but can be incredibly fruitful. Mm-hmm. And that's how you actually can take out these organizations, right? Because I don't care what organization. These are organizations where al-Baghdadi, not a good guy. No. Bad stuff, done really bad stuff to people who are nominally in his own organization because they weren't severe enough. There will be people who will help you, who want to help you, if you don't torture them to death trying to get information. If you can, there's a way in there. The way is not, beating them to death.
You said that you're a political junkie. Do you also participated in a live reading, right? With
Yes.
John Lithgow and a number of others.
That's right, yeah.
Was that the reading that it was of the Mueller Report?
We did. We did. My uncle Robert Schenken wrote a condensed version of the Mueller Report.
I didn't know Schenken was your uncle.
Yeah, that's my real last name, Ben McKenzie Schenken. I'm just saying it because you could Google it, so might as well know it. My uncle wrote a short version of it because the report's 445 pages long or whatever it is, and so that's a little too long to do a live reading. That's a really long live reading.
And so apparently still didn't contain all that they knew.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, that's right. You should see the redacted stuff. We are seeing it. But it's anyway, yes, we did a reading. John Lithgow was Trump. He was fantastic. I believe Kevin Bacon was James Comey, is that right? And Annette Bening was the narrator.
Who were you?
I was Donald Trump Jr. I got to say, I was like, thanks, Uncle, thanks.
Can I ask? Did you?
I got to say, you know, if it's what you say, I love it, especially later in the summer. That was my line. You know.
Did you read it as you, or just doing a reading, or did you try to put
Did I
any
try
kind
to
of
do a
Donald Trump
we
Jr.
were
into it?
we were under very capable direction. Scott Ellis directed it, big Broadway director. Let's not try to do imitations of these people. They're already sort of caricatured enough. Let's just try to, you know, let the words speak for themselves. It's also supposed to be somber. I mean, you know, it's really interesting that the Mueller report, in some senses, seems to have not landed. This was an attempt by, you know, folks in the creative community to translate it into something that people could just sit down and watch over the course of, I don't know, an hour or so. It's basically the greatest hits of the Mueller report. Like, if you just needed to know exactly what Mueller found, based on, you know, some of the words that are his description of what he found, but most of it's just what people said. I mean, it's an email from Trump Jr. If it is what's his line? It's something like that. If
it is what you say it is, I love it.
Especially later in the summer.
Oh,
you know,
right,
it's
yeah.
like, we're getting the dirt, and we're going to drop the dirt, and they dropped the dirt. And, you know, did that help? Well, I mean, it didn't hurt his campaign, right? So it's just trying to understand, you know, what this person who we respect deeply, right? Everyone respects Robert Mueller. That's not shouldn't be a controversial stance to take. He certainly served his country for, you know, his entire life. What he found, what were his actual conclusions? Shockingly, they aren't actually what the president says they were. He says no conclusion, no obstruction. It's like, if you read this thing, I mean, I don't know what your definition of collusion or obstruction are, but you know, a reasonable person would be deeply disturbed.
Politics is not reasonable, though.
No, but, you know, that's okay. I mean, that's why it's fought in the court of public opinion, right? Is we're going to have to build a narrative. People are busy. We got a lot of stuff going on. Right. Not everyone's going to pay attention to the minutia of this. I think that the fear, on my part anyway, is that if we become so overwhelmed by how much negative stuff is out there and how chaotic it is, that we just tune out the whole system and we just say, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. You know, who cares? I was in college in 2000. I graduated in 2001, and I remember it was Gore versus Bush, and I was like, I don't really want to vote. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? I don't think I was a college kid. I was like, it's basically the same. So I didn't vote. And, you know, I think what happened with Bush and the wars, I have regrets that I didn't at least, you know, do what I should have done and participated in the democratic process. Because quite frankly, if you don't participate, you can't really complain. You should at least vote. I didn't do it back then, and so ever since then, you know, will go to college campuses and talk to kids about voting, or talk to whoever, listen about voting. I think everyone should vote. Even if I happen to be a Democrat, if you're a Republican, you should vote. I don't care, independent, whatever party. And it should be, if not compulsory, it should be a revered institution. It should be a revered ritual in our culture that everyone participates, because that's the only way we have a functioning democracy. I think what the Republicans are doing about, you know, keeping young kids from voting, keeping, you know, laws passed by popular government, you know, referenda in Florida about felons, you know, ex-felons being able to vote, like,
as well as complaining about voter fraud.
Well, it's all keeping people from exercising their rights, their fundamental rights, the fundamental right, you might say, in a democracy, is the ability to vote.
Making people call into question the importance of the institution itself. Yeah,
well, and just, you know, you want to choose who gets to participate in this process rather than the people being able to do it. Yeah. And that's it's not good.
We could go on about this for
I know it's long. This is a heavy.
Anyway,
Line of Duty, November 15th. It's on. It's VOD and on demand. I just wanted to mention that to you.
On November 15th?
On November 15th.
Just in time for Thanksgiving.
It's the perfect Thanksgiving movie.
Perfect Thanksgiving movie. We have a Twitter question. It's which villain from Gotham was most influential for you in preparation for Line of Duty? This is from Syra Chan.
Oh boy. No. I mean, no. There wasn't one. Sorry.
A couple questions from the audience.
I should have a joke there, but I don't. Hey man,
Hi.
what's up?
I was just wondering what it was like working with Annette Bening on the report and the Mueller performance.
Oh, well, it was great. I talked to her for 5 minutes at the reading, but she's an incredible actor and a big, huge fan of hers. So it was great to cross paths with her. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
One more.
Hi there.
Hi.
I was curious whether what was more challenging to shoot, playing torture in the report or this film.
This was more physically demanding, but to torture people was more because it's based on real events. It was a little more troubling to get into. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the question.
Ben, love having you here, man. Good to see you. Line of Duty, November 15th, VOD on demand.
That's right.
Right? And the report, I believe, is coming out next week.
Yeah,
two.
it's any minute now.
Yeah.
It's been doing the rounds, so it'll be out this month.
Ben McKenzie, everybody, let's hear it.